Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today, our topic is Senior Group Conducting Healthcare Reform Workshop. Our guest speaker is Daniel Weber. We're going to talk about this topic and also healthcare reform or the Affordable Care Act. If you want to chime in, go ahead and chime in at 347-324-3460, 347-324-3460, or you can pose a question in the chat room and read the question on the air. Well, Daniel, welcome to the program.
Great talking to you, Tim.
Great. Thank you again. I guess to give us, for the very beginning, a lot of our listeners like to hear personal stories of our guests. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I had a successful insurance agency, and our kids were taking over the business. And at that time, I said, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And coincidentally, I said, hey, wait a minute, I'm a member of AARP, and I was very disappointed in some of the actions that they had been taking. For example, Tim, they had given Harry Belafonte an award, Humanitarian of the Year award, and he had just gotten back from Venezuela, where he and Chavez said that America was the greatest terrorist state in the world and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I realized then that it's one thing supporting Jane Fonda, which AARP has done for many years, but I said, now this is no good. And I said, I'm going to join another group. So I signed up for a couple groups that said they were conservative alternative to AARP. I really didn't get anything, one or two offers to buy some insurance, and I didn't see them very active on the Hill. So finally, I said to my wife, Judy, Judy, how about we start our own alternative to AARP? So it took us about a year. We did all kinds of test mailings, free memberships, $5 and on, and offering benefits. And finally, we hit across, a success formula where we mainly stress the fact that seniors aren't getting the representation in Washington that we really deserve, and that AARP really doesn't represent our views. And no better example is Obamacare. AARP backed Obamacare despite the fact that 85% of their members, according to a Gallup poll, said they were happy or very happy with their present health insurance. So we started AMAC in 2007, and we had 5,000 members after about 1 year of struggling. We produced a magazine, which we lost our shirt on, and then finally we hit it the stride right, and we got to get members telling other members and referrals as that's the best way to grow a business. And all of a sudden, it took off like wildfire with Obamacare and people being upset, the Tea Parties. And now we have 380,000 members and growing rapidly.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you and your organization. And thank you for all the information you just provided. Kind of tell us in a nutshell. Now, there's two sides of the story, and I guess we won't know until this really becomes law how it really going to affect us. Maybe every business will find a loophole to get somewhere around it, and I guess we'll just see what happens. Kind of tell us what, as it stands now, what is the impact, what we have today for healthcare for seniors, and what the Affordable Care Act, so far, what is that projecting if that will help or hurt, or we just really don't know?
Well, it's definitely going to hurt in many cases. We were promised that people wouldn't lose the health insurance. Already about 8 million people have had the health insurance change or they lost it altogether. In New York State, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield stopped selling health insurance plans for small employers, 50 or less employees. So they just had to get other coverage because of Obamacare. They also got a letter from the Secretary of Health and Human Services saying you can't say you're raising your rates because of Obamacare. If you do, you'll be barred from participating in any federal program down the road. So The administration has used a blackjack and threats, and they're costing small businesses a lot of money. And eventually, larger business, 50 or more employees, they're going to have to provide health insurance or pay a fine. So unfortunately, it's bad. That's just one half of it. The other half is patients are going to suffer. Doctors are going to get less money, and therefore less doctors are going to service Medicare, Medicaid patients, and so on. So the whole thing is a bad law. Matter of fact, we call it, Tim, a lemon law, and it has so many defects that it should be repealed.
If it's appealed, we really just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this is like uncharted territory for the past couple of years, and we just don't know what's going to happen. If it goes I guess if another administration comes in and it gets repealed, then we go back to where we were.
Well, that's exactly why we set up our workshops.
Okay.
Because the existing health care before Obamacare had its flaws. There should have been coverage across state lines, true competition. There are many ways to cover pre-existing conditions, for example. So what we did at AMAC, unlike other organizations that talk, we actually take action. So we set up 15 different workshops. We're in the process now of appointing chairpersons for each workshop. And, for example, one workshop is how to lower the cost of drugs. Another one is how to replace the mandate with common sense solutions. 15 different workshops covering all spectrums of our medical care. And there are a lot of good ideas. For example, doctors have told us that they would cover indigent or poor patients if, for example, they could get a little bit of a tax break. Now physicians turn down people if they don't have insurance. Well, a lot of lawyers do what they call pro bono work, where they work for free, and physicians would be happy to do the same thing, but it would be nice if they got a tax credit. So that kind of idea is what one of the workshops is about. And we will hopefully, by the beginning of the year, we'll have a whole array of alternative proposals that will not only replace Obamacare, but make our whole medical care system a lot better.
Wow. And then also with the other workshops that you normally have, kind of tell us what else you guys normally provide.
Sure. In addition, AMAC is an organization for seniors. We got all kinds of discounts for our members. Just like RP, we have discounts on auto insurance, we have health insurance, life insurance, and so on. But more importantly, we represent them in Washington so that Medicare, well, I'll give you an example, Tim. Medicare Advantage under Obamacare will be threatened. 11 million seniors have Medicare Advantage, and the government is going to take away price support that they were giving the insurance companies, and they're going to use that money to pay for other parts of the Obamacare program. We're against that. 11 million Americans that have Medicare Advantage are mostly poor people because they can't afford to buy a Medicare supplement. So those are the things that AMAC is working for. Well, AMAC also has a program to save Social Security, which we presented up on Capitol Hill, and we hope to get some traction on that when there is a new Congress. So AMAC's got a lot of things going. All we need is more members, Tim. The more members we have, the more clout we'll have.
Okay. And just to clarify, to differentiate yourself from the AARP, what separates you two?
Okay, mainly we stand for conservative, old-fashioned American values, faith, family, individual freedom. And under the individual freedom is the freedom to choose your doctor, the freedom to choose your health care plan, and things of that nature. Where AARP favors, if you read their writings going back several years, they favor a single payer. They like government control. AMAC likes less government control and less taxes.
Wow. Also, when it comes to issues with seniors, are there any programs that you guys promote to help seniors? Once they become the age of retirement, they do retire, the world changes when they actually become part of the system.
Correct. They need help.
Kind of tell us what they need help. Tell us exactly, once they become retirement age and they begin taking Social Security, now they stop working. Some do have plans with a employer that continues, some don't. Tell us some issues that an average person really have to face.
Okay, well, typically, money is a big factor. We publish a quarterly magazine, and we send out a weekly email newsletter. in the magazine and in the newsletter, we'll have information that'll help seniors be able to make informed decisions. For example, we recently did an article on long-term care. That's if you should become disabled and you need to have care. Do you want to be a burden on your kids? Do you want to use up all your savings, or do you want to buy a long-term care policy? And there's different kinds of long-term care insurance. There's different coverages. For example, one will cover people in their home, which is very nice. Most people, if they need care, would rather be in their home than in a nursing home. So we have articles and information on things of that nature. Also, we have articles and information on money and information on, for example, are you better off waiting until you're 66 to collect Social Security, or should you collect at age 62? Information on things like Roth IRAs, how you can leave money for your children and grandchildren and have it grow. A lot of different things that seniors need some guidance on, and that's really why AMAC is out there.
Wow. We're living as a society, living much longer, and even if you had a plan, it only covers you up to a certain point. Is there a cutoff point that now coverage is going to be a problem? When you get in your 80s and 90s, by that time, you've pretty much outlived your normal savings, and if you're in your late 80s, your retirement plan is over. Now, you have expenses with your house and things like that. And maybe you're alone. You may have the other spouse there with you to kind of help you. But when you become
go ahead.
Yeah, and when you become your late 80s, then times may really change. Kind of tell us what the scenarios, what seniors that usually have to face when they now move from this 20-year time that they can able to do things. Now they're in this late 80s and 90s, then the world really changed for them, especially when it comes to healthcare.
Well, you said a couple of very important things, and people should plan ahead. And one of the things that AMAC does is, again, we provide information on some of the things they should do and some of the things they shouldn't do. But let's take Social Security, for example. You're absolutely right. Social Security is going to run out of money in 20 years. Unless something is done, everybody on Social Security is going to take a 25% cut in Social Security. The government screwed up. They fouled up by not putting enough money into the reserves. And the other problem with Social Security is that the average person who collects it only collects $13,000 a year. Now, that's simply not enough money. So what AMAC has done, we have a Social Security IRA proposal that is a voluntary plan, payroll deduction. You can put in as little as $5 a week. You get a tax credit. It's automatically deducted from your pay if you're still working. So that'll give people an additional avenue, tax favored, to help save money. So when they do reach their older years, they have more money. Right now, it's atrocious what we're doing to Social Security, and we got to stop that. But the other thing you mentioned is, as people get older, some of their plans will cause them to increase. For example, many people that pay for Medicare supplements, if they find out their doctors are covered under Medicare Advantage by the same insurance carrier, they'll save up to $2,000 a year in their insurance costs simply by switching from a Medicare supplement to a Medicare Advantage. So that's one of the things people should shop around. Every year there's a season, usually around the fall, and it lasts about 6-8 weeks, October to December, where people can switch their Medicare plans around, and that's a good time. If you have a Medicare supplement, you should look into a Medicare Advantage plan. I know of you mentioned 80-year-old people. I know of an 88-year-old lady who's paying almost $3,000 a year for Medicare supplement. She checked with her doctors. They would all accept the same insurance company under a Medicare Advantage, and there would be no premium payment for her at all. So she switched over and saved $3,000 a year. And that kind of information is in our magazine. So there are things people should do, but they've got to have a source that they trust where people tell them about things like that.
Wow. One of the disadvantages of being a senior is that you really, as we get older, we get impatient, and not necessarily don't comprehend things well, but we get impatient. When you have a stack of things given to you and you have to read it and you don't necessarily understand all the gibberish with it. We get upset, we get impatient, and we just don't have a system or workshops that can guide us through. There's some say we can do this, some say we can do that, some trying to sell you something. Everybody's trying to take your money from you, from family to you name it.
Yeah.
So it's like you in this world, you're already stressed with these things and you're stressed with technology. How can you guys get the word out of who you are and kind of help seniors to kind of navigate through this course?
And you pointed it out exactly right. It is a complex, almost a minefield when people reach, say, age 65 and they've got to look at the different choices. What kind of Medicare plan do they take? Do they keep their company plan? Do they go to a Medicare supplement? Do they take a Medicare Advantage? And there's like 6 or 7, depending on the state you're in. It could be 9 or 10 Medicare Advantage plans. There could be Medicare supplement plans. So one of the things you want to do is get a consultant, either a local agent who specializes in seniors or get information from AMAC. For example, people call our 800 number and they'll get information. I'd say that out of, maybe 1 out of 6 people who call us for information wind up getting insurance from us. But the main thing they get from us is information that helps guide them. If they have a good plan, our consultants will tell them that. If they don't have a good plan, or we think there's an option, or if they're looking just to save money, if they want to have a better drug coverage and so on, that kind of advice is what we give over the telephone. Now, there's strict guidelines set up by the federal government on what can be said and what can't be said. And unfortunately, the government makes it more difficult. And those are the kind of things that we're trying to fight. We want to simplify it for seniors, take some of the complications out of this whole thing. And there are also other groups available. For example, in Florida, there's an outfit called SHINE, SHINE, which is an outfit that provides free consultations to seniors on different matters. And people should research it, either call their local government and say, what services, counseling services do you have for seniors? They should join senior citizen organizations in their community. And those are the things that they can do. And plus, join AMAC. And with all of those resources, it should make their road a lot easier to travel.
Wow. Last question before we actually find give your information out. What opportunities are available for the senior who in their 90s? Are they able to still get insurance?
Yes. The Medicare, that's the good thing about Medicare. And despite what you hear from the president, people with Medicare can't be canceled. People with Medicare supplement can't be canceled because they run up bills. So those things that's a scare tactic, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Reputable health insurance companies do not cancel people because they have claims. That's just not true. And under the Medicare, they can't do it under federal law. So there's really a lot less to worry about after you're on the Medicare program than before. You're under age 65, there are a lot more different problems, but that's assuming the person is working. Perhaps their employer covers them. Perhaps they bought their own insurance. But once they reach Medicare age, they're pretty much assured they're going to have Medicare. They got to be careful, though, because basic Medicare, in a nutshell, only covers about 80% of their costs. So that's why they want to look into buying a supplement or get a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay. Anything else you would like to leave us with regarding your organization? How can they contact your organization and about your membership?
I appreciate that very much, Tim. When the Supreme Court ruling was announced, I was in Washington. I was disappointed that they ruled the way they did. It's a very complicated ruling. We don't have time enough to go into detail. But I met with a group of doctors. It's called the Doctors Caucus. And there are 21 members of the Congress and Senate who are medical doctors, medical professionals. And they have their own caucus, their own group. And they asked AMAC to come in and work with them to help come out with alternative solutions to Obamacare to make it better, to have it cost less, not to be a burden. And that's what AMAC is working on now. But we need members. The more members we have, the more clout that they'll give us, and then we can help seniors do what's best for them. And they can simply join us by going to the internet, www.amac.us. That's amac.us, not .com, but .us. And the more members that AMAC have, the better off everybody is. And I really thank you, Tim, for this opportunity.
No, thank you for coming in, sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with us. Daniel, thank you so much.
Okay.
And give us your website address one last time.
Sure. It's amac.us, not .com, but amac.us. It's $16 a year to be a member.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Take care. Again, this has been another production of the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. Thank you for listening to this program. You can download again this program on iTunes or Blog Talk Radio. Also, the highlights of this interview would be available on blog.apple Capital Group. Everybody, thank you for listening. Have a great day and take care. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For a free quote on equipment leasing and financing, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. And fill out the information to receive your free quote. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. Thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.